this is Dane Wigington with GeoEngineeringWatch.org radio for May 16th, 2015. Russ with us as always, do the same format today. We'll get to questions by 15 after, if not maybe a little bit sooner. I want to announce that I think I'm going to change the show time till Tuesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific, I think, if that time frame is open. So I'll announce on this if we do, but I hope that's a better time frame for most people so they don't have to have a hole in their Saturday. And maybe that'll allow us to get more people on board, although we do have a lot tuning in now, which I'm very grateful for. The grinding on of industrial society continues, but the gears are definitely throwing out sparks at this point. And this is going to magnify very, very quickly. And I want to stress the fact that our equation on every front is completely nonlinear. It's exponential. And the disintegration of what we have known will be exponential. And at this point, if one chooses to, and I think we should, we can see that as a step forward, not backward. Every single day, industrialized society grinds on in its current form means there will be that much less to salvage as the decimation of the planet continues unabated. And the things we've been told, that we've been fed, that people have accepted, and this is truly astounding that we can have this perpetual expansion, again, on a finite planet with finite resources. And climate engineering ties into all this. I'm not branching off on the subject at all. It's the epitome of this type of mentality, that we can just keep stripping the planet of resources, building, expanding, and trying to tech our way out of the massive problems that develop. And climate engineering is the epitome of that type of insanity with this facade. That the resource depletion of the planet, I know a lot of people don't want to accept that. It's a mathematical fact. The climate meltdown, which is being fueled by climate engineering, and we're getting a lot more reports on that, by the way. We're getting a lot more people from the climate science community that are not quite at the threshold of stating what's happening, but they're putting out reports that completely corroborate what we've said the entire time. That the climate is in meltdown, and climate engineering can only make it worse. It has only made it worse. It's fueled the fire the whole time. This quest for power and control to control the climate, the ultimate covert weapon, has made an already bad situation far worse, not better. Why would that be a surprise? Human conflict around the globe. Again, none of this conflict is about democracy or some sort of other geopolitical issues. It's about resources, period. Resource wars are happening now. It can't not happen. And when we live in this constant bombardment, especially in Western media, about jobs, job expansion, economic growth, this is a complete lie. And it doesn't take much contemplation to arrive at this conclusion. Again, you can tell this to a child and they'll understand immediately. You can't continue to expand on a finite planet with finite resources. It can't be done. And when you say things like this, and I've had a couple of these conversations in the last week, some people reject this because they feel, well, if that's what the power structure says, or certain people in the power structure, then we must take the opposite position. It must not be true. That's not rational thinking. We have to look at the truth no matter what it is and sift the baby from the bathwater. And although I do agree the power structure, those in power have set this paradigm up, they fueled this paradigm, and they should be the first ones to suffer the consequences of it. I agree with that completely. They should be the first ones to walk the plank, if you will. But that doesn't mean that certain realities aren't realities. And we all need to, again, sort through that. If we don't, we lose credibility. In regard to the climate engineering issue, I see a lot of people blaming everything on climate engineering. And although, as a reflection of human insanity and human decimation to life, climate engineering deserves the biggest level of blame of all from every direction. If you start to blame everything on one particular aspect, we'll lose credibility. Again, I've seen people blame the entire die-off of the planet on climate engineering, the entire climate disruption on climate engineering, as if there's no other factors. That simply doesn't help us with credibility. You have to frame your message properly to deliver an accurate message to people. You can frame it as the largest single causal factor, but by no means the only one. Again, we have to rationally look at the full scope of damage done to the planet by the human race, and where would you start? It's impossible to get your arms around. The tearing down of unbelievably vast amounts of forest around the globe, the burning of hydrocarbon, the poisoning of the oceans, a documentary I posted last week, the dumping of nuclear waste in the oceans, depleted uranium ammunition, war zones around the globe. Where would we start? I'm only saying that, yes, we should focus on climate engineering, but frame your message carefully or you will lose people in the attempt to try to share this. If you approach people and try to blame virtually every ailment in the world today on climate engineering, that's not going to gain credibility. So as we look at the lies we've been fed, again, that we can expand jobs, we can expand economic growth, we can end poverty, we can end hunger, these are mathematical lies. It's an impossibility. So the sooner we face what we're up against, looking through a and these walls are closing in. And that's why if we understand the complete picture more clearly, we'll be more effective in the battle. If we look at certain basic underlying fundamentals, and I've talked about the Baltic Dry Index before, this is all global dry shipping, everything that goes over the oceans. Got a little background noise, Russ. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but anyway, I just want to point that out. It's all global shipping. So the Baltic Dry Index, and I would encourage anybody listening to look this up, it's virtually crashed. Global shipping is below the basement. How can the stock market be going up? How can we have the kind of economic figures we have? Because it's a complete lie. It's the power structure, again, back to climate engineering, back to Jade Helm, all these issues connect. So as the power structure tries desperately to hide reality from a public that really doesn't want reality as long as possible, these are the kinds of figures we see that are complete falsehoods, that there's economic growth, that there's job improvement, absolute fallacies. So on the climate engineering, as we see that ramped up as well, same type of mentality, trying to hide reality from a population that really doesn't want reality as long as possible. And a post I'll be putting up here in the next 20, 30 minutes with some satellite shots over the continental U.S. that's almost completely covered with aerosolized cloud, by the way. It's astounding how little open air there is. This is part of the same sort of facade, from the economic lies to the climate situation. When you shade the whole country, you drop temperatures for a while at the cost of a worsened overall warming, which is the case around the globe. So again, our whole world is it's a mass delusion, absolutely mass delusion. And the sooner society is forced to face that, the better. And on that note, there are powerful allies in this fight now. I say that with firsthand knowledge. We definitely have powerful allies. And the level of awareness with this issue is much greater than meets the eye. Still got some background noise, Russ. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but I just wanted to point that out again. It's much greater than we realize, and it's spreading rapidly. Also a nonlinear equation. So we're in a race to the intersection, if you will. An absolute race to try to bring our issue to light. Climate engineering, which again is the greatest all-out assault against life on Earth ever initiated by the human race. We're in a race against time to bring this issue to the light of day before the power structure has all their chess pieces in place, because that's exactly what they're doing. The whole Jade Helm situation, the TPP, the mass vaccinations, or the forced vaccinations, which is moving through in California, they are putting their chess pieces in place. But they're having increasing difficulty doing that. They're having increasing resistance from within their own system. And that's where our greatest hope lies, to break the system down from within. And it's starting to happen. And we need to fuel that fire. Again, my deepest gratitude to countless activists in countless places that are effectively and efficiently now raising awareness in their regions. And these various spot fires, again, are starting to connect. And that awareness is growing rapidly. So this is the race we are in, the race to the intersection, the race to beat the train, the race to expose climate engineering before the power structure has all their chess pieces in place, which is very near. It's very near, but they're breaking down again from the inside. So we'll go over perspectives on this in a few minutes. Russ, I want to have you announce calls. And if I could, Russ, we talked off air for a moment, and you mentioned that the buildup or the exposure, constant exposure to this issue is affecting those around you as well. And this is the case from a lot of people I'm hearing from too. Again, our system can only take so much, the environment can only take so much, the atmosphere can only take so much, and we're reaching breaking points now. Can you share with the listeners a little bit more about that, and then we'll announce call-in number and try to start taking calls to maybe dialogue a little bit about the issues I just mentioned, the facade of our reality and how quickly it's ending. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, absolutely. This is this week, the last 2 weeks have been particularly bad. We have had a pattern for a couple of years now where the intensity in the air would be 2 weeks very intense, and then there'd be a mild week. Now, throughout the history of me watching and sensing all of this stuff in the air, being that I am so sensitive to it, I've seen patterns. There's patterns all the time. And I like to share these patterns with people so they understand that this is a reality. This is a very physical process that people are going through. So in reference to what you were talking about, I've had many people contact me, and they do all the time about the symptoms that they have. And this particular week has been filled with a type of aerosol that I call the pharmaceutical type, because it actually has the taste of a sleeping pill. It tastes kind of like a hospital. When you go to a hospital, there's that weird scent, very much like what sleeping pills taste like. And it's like that. And it's amazing that when those close to me, those people that I know, have the same physical responses that I do. And I see this day after day after day. As a plume comes over us and the air becomes intense, the sleepiness, the feelings of tiredness, narcolepsy, you can't focus, you just want to lay down and go to sleep. When this particular type is in the air, are the set of symptoms that we experience. And then as the air clears up, you feel better, and it just takes a few minutes. And so our physical condition is right in sync with the intensity of this in the air. And this has been my experience from the very beginning, and I've seen this with people around me. Whether or not they can smell or taste the chemicals and the metals in the air, they still experience the physical illnesses, the physical ailments, symptoms of it. So this has been just continuing this week, and the pharmaceutical taste has been real strong. It's been a real strong one this last week.
And you can't not experience it or feel the effects of it when you're exposed to it long enough. And the ecosystems are also, again, breaking down by the day. I'm going to send maps to you right now, Russ, and I hope you can post in the chat room. These maps are very, very telling as to the climate deception that, again, like everything else in our world, everything is a lie. Everything we've been fed, this notion of perpetual expansion, this notion of science and technology being able to always tech our way out of things, absolute lie. So the maps I'm sending right now, we have most of the country right now in at least normal or slightly below normal temperatures in the lower 48. But in order to accomplish this, then again, it's weather whack-a-mole right now. They can only cool certain sizes of regions. You can't push only so much cold air around. You can only ice nucleate so many areas. I know there was some snow falling in Prescott, Arizona, where Corey Gunnels lives, only a few days ago. And people see that, and the media hypes it. and it fuels the illusion they want to fuel. But what's going on at the same time? And if you post the maps I sent you, at the same time, we had temperatures into the Arctic Circle of 80 degrees on May 12th. You don't see many headlines about that. And if you look at the map, which is color-coded that I sent you, you see a bright red Arctic going all the way to the North Pole. Far, far, far above normal temperatures. Again, part of the illusion. So people need to look at the larger picture. They need to understand what's going on. And this is what it takes to get credibility. This is what it takes to have big allies joining our fight now, and they are joining. Again, I had a meeting on Monday with someone who could, a very important person that is internationally known, and there's others involved as well. We are gaining very, very powerful allies. It's imperative that we retain credibility and not drag all sorts of other things into the mix, not pull debatable subjects that don't relate directly to this, that are certainly not science. If it's science, by all means, but if it's not, if it's some peripheral, I've been watching too much Porky Pig, I think, lately, peripheral issues, you can't drag that into the mix. You simply can't. So this is imperative for everybody to understand. And Russ, again, I hope, did you get those maps? Russ?
Yep, I got the maps. I'm posting them right now. And for those who want to see the maps, they can go to ucy.tv/GW and view the joint. Look in the chat room. I'll have those maps posted there within a couple minutes.
Okay, and let's consider again the deviations from some of these temperatures shown on these maps in regions of the Arctic, temperatures that are pushing 40 degrees above normal. We're talking about off the scale. So I want people to continue to understand whatever weather is occurring outside your doorstep, whatever engineered, chemically ice-nucleated weather that you're immersed in is not a global picture, period. Can you give the call-in number, Russ?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who'd like to call in, the number is 718-717-8296. We have lines open right now if you'd like to call in. The number is 718-717-8296, so please call in.
And I want to, again, I would like to hear people's perspectives on their waking up to the fact that our entire reality is nothing but a mass illusion that was never sustainable, and nothing more so than the climate engineering situation, which again is the epitome of human insanity. I don't think there's any other way to describe it, but I'm curious of people's perspectives on the fact that, again, our whole reality is an illusion. So, Russ, on your end, at what point did you really start to realize, you can cut in if we have calls to get, and I hope the lines are working today because I know sometimes they're not, but at what point did that really start to become evident to you that the whole scenario was not rationally, was not sustainable?
Well, you know, for me, I see the chemical aerosols that we're experiencing as something that is so far beyond the other things. I know it's not the only problem, but it's such a huge, huge contributor that probably, in my opinion, the single largest contributor. And you know, for me, I noticed it when it happened. I mean, the day that the aerosols started to be released, as a lifelong sky watcher, a collector of pictures of jets. I mean, I loved jets as a child, and I had collected all of these pictures, never saw a trail coming out of an engine. And then to be sensitive enough to actually smell and taste this stuff in the air, to have the burning eyes and all of the other symptoms that go along with that, for me, it was immediate. And for those,
you didn't see it or notice it, but we do know it was going on. So I mean, really, we know none of us have known truly natural weather. But I agree, you know, when the big ramp-ups came, when we were forced to face a plastered sky, but really none of us have known truly natural weather at this, you know, unless somebody's quite up there in their ears.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have grayed out skies. I mean, and what astonishes me, Dane, is how little people notice this. we have skies that were whited out, and now of course they're hiding it much better. They're flying at high altitudes. They've made most of the trails that I see now short on most days. So there are some, 5 to 7 days, 8 days a month are an exception, but they're really trying to hide it. But it's just astonishing that they would completely white out the skies, and people are just completely oblivious to this. And we do have callers when you're ready, Dane.
I see that right now, and let's go straight to that. I just want to reiterate your point that, yes, there seems to be a very concerted effort now to be more covert. So it's important people understand the horizon-to-horizon trails are only a part of this. If you're not seeing clear blue skies and white clouds, you're seeing the wispy, hazy clouds, the silvery white skies, even with the shorter, bright trails. That is absolutely still spray. Let's go to calls, Russ.
Yes, caller with your number that ends in 60. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, this is Cole. I live in Queens, New York.
Hi, Cole.
Hi, Cole.
How you guys doing? I can't tell you how great it is to talk to you two. I've been listening for quite a while, and I've been aware of geoengineering for probably, pretty much the whole gambit of it for about 4 years. But I didn't really, place it into my life until about 3.5 years ago. We started getting these small polymer-looking fibers in our living room. And we thought maybe it was from construction or something, but they're very, very odd. They respond to static electricity. Very, very bizarre. So that was the first thing. The second thing is we have a large window. We're on the 4th floor. And I was doing some data entry for my business, and I just happened to be looking at the sky. And this is about 7:30 in the morning. It was a pretty clear blue sky. Then the plane started, one after the other, after the other. I go, I know what this is. This is geoengineering. I really started paying attention to it. And also, we started to get a lot of dust inside of our apartment. So I guess it's about 4.5 months ago, I went to my doctor, and they're going to do routine blood tests. I said, can you do me a favor? Can you check me for heavy metals, especially aluminum? And a month later, I went back, and my doctor was flipping out. Where did you get this level? I had a 21 level in my blood test, and that's extremely high. 9 is usually the limit for people working aluminum foundries, breathing in vapors. It gets past their respirator, and it gets into the bloodstream. So a 21 is unbelievably high, and that is the biggest wake-up call anybody can get. But I'm always thinking maybe the labs might not give you accurate results, or they might zero it out. Who knows? But if somebody gets a high aluminum rating, where's it coming from? How did I get this in my system? How can it be so high, so jam-packed? And it's only one answer. And you really can't get more awake than that.
On that note, and thanks for sharing that with us, Cole, I met yesterday with a Northern California neurologist, and we're trying to coordinate right now. He's a main neurologist in Northern California, their office to add a heavy metal count test to all their standard blood testing, which they do all week long. So we're working on this so we can really compile our data quickly to bring this to light, working on a number of ways that will add up to that. And again, back to what Russ said earlier, on the level of human insanity that is geoengineering, and I agree with you, Russ, and we've always said this, it's the single greatest assault against the planet of all. And there's a lot of factors with this that people don't even consider. Yes, they're spraying, but how much damage are those jets doing simply by being there and flying around the skies all day long? How many thousands of jets are we talking about that are really directly related to these programs alone? We're talking about tankers that, when they're loaded, can burn as much as a gallon of fuel a second in the case of KC-135. And this is what a lot of people don't know as well, that a gallon of jet fuel produces 19 pounds of CO2 in the atmosphere. So think about that. Every single jet engine putting almost 20 pounds, when we're talking about tankers, 20 pounds of CO2 per second into the atmosphere. Now let's add the tens of millions of tons of metal nanoparticulates that are being sprayed. Back to the sustainability. Who in their right mind, with any level, any shred of sanity, could possibly think these programs could do anything but harm and mass cataclysm? So this is the world we live in, and your metal tests again are
Yes.
Yet one more sign of the epitome of human insanity to do this and the effect on you. So if you could, Cole, I would like to those tests all help. If you can email that to me at GeoEngineering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also one other thing that people bring up is if they're contaminating everybody, literally poisoning us, causing like Dr. Russell Blaylock with the inflammation of the brain, the microglia and aluminum toxicity of the brain and the inflammation, they have to have a way of decontaminating themselves. The people in the know or the people who are controlling these programs, they have to have a way for them and their families to be able to get this out of their system. Beyond chelation, maybe it's transmutation of the aluminum in their system. They must be at least, I would say, hundreds, if not 1,000 years ahead of us technologically. You know, the black projects, they have to have a way of getting out of their system. I don't think they would really have taken this on unless they had that. I feel that.
I would agree with part of that because, and we have talked about chelation methods they have. In fact, we know one in Germany that a friend of mine has been through that would likely exempt them from many or most of the short-term effects. But if we look at the bigger picture again, if we assume that those in power, have some way out of this mess, they don't. Unless they have some way of ending up on some other planet, you know, and I don't claim to know anything about that, but we're talking about a planet that's not going to support life much longer, and there's no way out of that. And we know that the same they that are behind the spraying are contaminated from the radioactive fallout now from many sources. So, and no matter how intelligent, no matter how far ahead they are, those in power, every single empire, every single ruling elite group, if you will, has always failed. They have always failed because their insanity has blind spots, massive blind spots. They always end up in this position. The difference now is the consequences will be total. But
they destroy themselves along with us.
That's correct. And that's the path we're on. But I mean, as far as your basic point, though, Cole, I do agree. I'm sure they are exempting themselves from many of the short-term effects. And we simply have to get this issue to light and to a halt before the accumulation takes us out of the picture. But thanks for what you're doing. And please share that test with us. We want to start building our database with human tests, and yours would help.
Okay, just on your website, send it to you. You have your email address there?
Send it to Russ and to me, if you will. If you can actually send it to me at admin@geoengineeringwatch.org.
Okay, I'll scan it now and I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Cole. And my address is russ@globalskywatch.com. I'd love to get a copy of that as well. And I want to tell you, too, that I also had a hair test early on during these programs after they started a couple of years, and my aluminum came up elevated as well. It was the highest thing that I had. So I think, and this is a very effective way to make it personal to people. I know people who have their children have asthmatic problems, their elderly grandparents and parents are suffering. And if we make this personal, we make them understand that you are personally affected. Nobody is getting by without being affected. At the very least, having your lifespan shortened. We know scientifically that that's what particulates in the air do, is they will shorten your lifespan, if not...
And functionality, and thinking, and everything, creativity, life.
That's right. Your performance, your energy levels. Everybody knows somebody who has cancer, who has had an aneurysm, a stroke, a heart attack. These things can all be related to the substances that we're seeing show up in these tests. So thank you, Cole, for the information.
You're welcome. Thank you, too.
Thanks, Cole.
Thanks, Russ. Bye-bye.
All right, very good. Appreciate that. Caller with your number that ends in 20. Who are we speaking with?
This is Bob in Texas. How are you today, gentlemen?
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Hello, Bob.
I was just, Dane was talking about, when did you realize that our paradigm here isn't really sustainable, that there's something terribly, terribly wrong? I'd have to say for me it was 9/11. After the first time I saw the video of CNN of the second tower being hit by that airplane, I knew I was looking at a cartoon. I knew that was cartoon physics that was trying to be displayed there, and how everyone bought that, I still don't know. And I guess that's what frustrates me most in this, is the sheer ignorance and the denial that you see in most people.
It's difficult to get your arms around, Bob. I agree with you on that. And that's why I do refer to the 9/11 issue frequently, especially the Building 7 issue. I mean, how the cognitive disconnect for people can be so total that they can't recognize or acknowledge a building being demoed in front of their face. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. No less so than the skies that we find above our heads and the other planet look that we see always in our skies. I mean, it's truly an insane asylum that we're living in, but it's coming to a head. That's the important part. For all those people who are discouraged with their efforts to try to raise awareness, don't give up. Those around you will be forced to face reality very, very, very soon, and it's happening. Again, the amount of context I've had in the last 2 weeks would surpass several years prior to. The wake-up is occurring because there simply is no other option right now. So I appreciate all you've done, Bob, and I share your angst at people's blindness, but the eyelids are going to be peeled back very soon, like it or not.
Well, I believe so too. I mean, I feel I'm making a difference out here. It may not be a giant difference, but a difference. And people, I can tell usually pretty quickly whether people are going to respond to me positively or negatively, and then I'll move on to those who are negative with me. I'll go and plow some more fertile ground. I just let that sit with them for a little while. Hand out a lot of DVDs and things like that, but it is frustrating that so many people, you show them this video, it's like, this is not the video. What you're seeing in this video is not a plane colliding with a building. You're seeing a building absorb an airplane. Now, when in the world does a building absorb an airplane?
Yeah, I know. It's the same with the Pentagon, that out in the grass area there was not a shred of wreckage. I mean, the glaring red flags with these issues is immense. And it's
same thing in Pennsylvania. Same thing in Pennsylvania, Dane. We had this crash site, which was a hole in the ground. There was nothing there. In fact, the newscasters were saying, we don't see anything. It's just a hole in the ground. And an eyewitness saw a small drone flying a few minutes before the explosion. But you don't hear about this stuff.
I absolutely believe there were no airplanes used that day. I absolutely believe it. And I know there are people out there that are real skeptical about that. But if you look at the videos, if you look at the way this is documented, there was one researcher that went out and he interviewed 1,000 people that were there that day from the New York City Police Department, from the fire department, and asked them, did you hear an airplane? Did you see an airplane? And did the airplane strike the building? By the time you got through talking with all those people, only one person said, I saw an airplane, I heard an airplane, and the airplane hit the building. One person.
Now, I want to weave this back into, and I agree with you on all counts, Bob. I want to weave this back into the establishment and their control over quote-unquote science. And in regards to NIST, the National Institute for Science and Technology, who has given the quote official explanation for the two towers collapsing, and by the way, didn't even mention Building 7 in their 9/11 report, didn't even mention a 50-story steel structure high-rise that collapsed in 7 seconds. Now, and I want to weave this back into climate engineering for a moment. This is where their total control over quote-unquote science has allowed them to lie to a degree that can scarcely be comprehended and have a public buy that. So now, in regards to organizations like even National Geographic, which towed the official line on 9/11, which recently publicized a massive expose on quote-unquote contrails, which we know are not condensation trails. So I just received a letter from National Geographic that they've asked me to participate in the drafting of an article that addresses the tree die-off. And I've not responded to this letter yet, because here's one segment from that letter. Please do not take this the wrong way, but anything we use must be fact-checked and verified by National Geographic before it can be used. Now, what does that mean? In other words, we decide what's true, we decide what's not. And this is how they operate. And this is the people who have decided that National Geographic and those like them are credible, even though they're bought, sold, and paid for. They've done a lot of good work. I don't take that from them. But they are absolutely tools of the power structure. So this is the sort of approach they take when they're trying to, I believe, marginalize in whatever way they can. But the fact that they're having to address this issue now, the fact that they're having to contact and try to utilize whatever strategy they're working on is certainly a sign that we are gaining ground, is it not? So I agree with you, Bob, on the 9/11 issue. Obviously, the climate engineering is the same thing, that this can occur above our heads without people recognizing the atrocity that's going on is astounding. But they'll have to face it soon, Bob. They'll have to face it all soon. And if we could expose climate engineering, as I discussed with Russ off the air, And we've said many times, if we could pull the curtain back on this issue, a whole lot more is going to come to the surface with it.
I believe in that myself, because I believe unless we come to face with 9/11, this country is done. It is over with. Hey, I appreciate all you guys' efforts, and I'll let the next caller in now.
Thanks, Bob.
Great, thanks, Bob. I couldn't agree with you more. And this is one of the amazing things that I've experienced, Dane, is that people have such an entitlement to believe whatever they want to believe, regardless of what the facts show, even regardless what their own observations are showing. They say, well, I just choose to believe X, Y, and Z despite what I'm seeing or hearing.
We know part of the reason for that, though, again, and I've shared this before. I have a friend, a 30-year friend that no longer is, but when it came right down to it, he was fine with 9/11 happening. He was fine with the government doing it. If that's what it took for the government to have a license to go pursue the resources, which I mentioned earlier, to keep the party going, the unsustainable party, when it came down to it, he was fine with that. And a lot of people, if they gave an honest answer, this is a very sad testimony to society, but that's how they feel. As long as their situation can be kept afloat for a little bit longer, they don't really care what has to happen. But now that bubble is going to be popped. People are going to have to face what's going on. So this is certainly in our favor to try to bring all this to a head. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, we can't get away with that forever. Caller with your number that ends in 85. Who are we speaking with?
Hello, Russ. This is Gary from Tampa, Florida.
Hi, Gary. How's it going?
Gary, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I don't know. I was just listening in, but I'm still doing the same thing with the phone call and the email with the airports and stuff. I'm still doing that. I did get some responses back from some of those emails.
Well, as long as you're, the more the flaming arrows you shoot out, Gary, so much the better. A lot of people are doing that now, and it's starting to add up. It's truly starting to add up. So I hope everybody continues with that effort, and we all refine our methods from one attempt to the next, whether it's meeting people in the streets or sending out the flaming arrows like you are. But I know more and more people are engaged in that. We need that sort of effort from everyone because every day counts. So I appreciate all you're doing, and keep us posted if you have any major breakthroughs down that way, Gary.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you for what you're doing, Gary. I really appreciate your work. I really do.
Thanks, Gary.
You're more than welcome. You know that.
Yep. He helps us out with our group as well. Caller with your number that ends in 49. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, it's Ray in North Florida. Hey, Dane. Hey, Russ.
Hi, Ray.
Hi. To what you were just saying about National Geographic, I think it might have been Libby Halevi's show that was just before this, where she said she personally knew of a National Public Radio news person who was specifically prohibited by his or her superiors from using the word fallout in any context pertaining to Fukushima. They could talk about political fallout from a scandal, but not fallout from a blown-up reactor. So, yes, everybody's tailoring the dialogue, to fit the propaganda message of the day. And I grew up under Nixon, so, the big lie has been going on for a long time.
Oh, you're exactly. They're all controlled. And just like, again, I mentioned this before, but it's certainly a sore spot for me that I supported Democracy Now! Out of my own pocket for a very extended time to air in Northern California to the tune of about $15,000 over a 2-year period with Amy Goodman, who's the largest independent news show in the world. I think they're syndicated to over 1,000 outlets. And certainly my dismay at finding out from staff people that work with her that I know that since she's receiving funding from the Ford Foundation, she's not allowed to talk about climate engineering or 9/11. And having met Amy twice, I was disappointed. I don't know what else to say. I was disappointed. I appreciate certain things she does. Don't get me wrong. She does a lot of good reporting. But it seems she felt very justified in making the decision that it was okay to not report on the two most important things in the world, because she still was allowed to report on other things. And I would argue that's total deception. You either tell the whole truth or you're not telling the whole truth. And when your followers, in her case, think they're being told the whole truth, and that if geoengineering was happening or if 9/11 was really the inside job that we know it is, that she would talk about it, then because she's not talking about it, they simply won't even look at this issue. And how is that helping? How is that helping the overall good of the planet, of our chances of survival? So again, as you said, with NPR and the rest, so many people have sold out and rationalized in their own mind that it's okay for whatever reason. It's not okay. There's either the truth and there's the non-truth, and that's how simple it is.
Well, Rupert Murdoch signs her paycheck, right? Dow Jones Newswires owns Democracy Now!, so why are we surprised?
We shouldn't be. In fact, any more data on that, I would like, if you have recent data, anything you find, please send it to me at admin@geoengineeringwatch.org as well, and with a heads up for me.
I do. I actually have probably more to say than I should tie up the phone lines with. So I have kind of a nutritional angle that I'd like to run past you that at the moment is just a theory, but I've been trying to, feel more or less normal in equilibrium with supplements, and it's been difficult because here they started spraying very heavily at the end of last August, and it lasted all the way through the winter, oddly enough, right? Because if you're blocking solar radiation, wouldn't you worry about Florida in the summer? No, the heavy spraying was up until a few weeks ago maybe, and now we've got more or less normal cumulus clouds. But I saw something. I was looking up beyond the cumulus clouds, like when they would part a little bit while I was driving one day, and I saw what looked like a perfect I Ching hexagram of 6 horizontal white stripes of some sort of particulate in a rectangular shape, and it just chilled me to the bone. It just chilled me to the bone, because obviously there's something going on up above the normal clouds that you can only see if you can sort of peek through them. And, I don't know about that particular shape, and maybe there's something to that as well, but this is what a lot of people here need to realize, or a lot of people in society need to realize, that when you look up and you see this imagine a section of Venetian blinds. Maybe it's easier to visualize. It's like a section of Venetian blinds, in a perfect rectangle just hanging there.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right. The experiment's in a state of flux, and who knows what they'll do next. I mean, I think they're trying anything they want because they know that all hell's about to break loose. But we don't see any breaks in the clouds here, like in Northern California. We've had moisture flowing over in the last few days. You'll see a lower level cumulus, but they're hard to make out because there's an overstory that's so totally white that they just blend in. There's no ray of sunlight shining through the break in the clouds. It's just a massive overstory of white that completely affects convection, which affects precipitation. And so many people have become accustomed to this, they don't recognize it. But so many things are about to start, so many links are about to start falling out of the chains that I think, Ray, we're very close to people being, again, forced awake. So we all need to keep shaking, rattling cages and sounding the alarm.
I hope so. I hope that day is close. All right, I'll let you get on to the next call, I guess, and I will drop you an email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray, for calling. One thing I would add, Dane, is I studied a lot about mainstream media and how media works for a long time. I was a volunteer with a political party, a smaller political party, and that was when my eyes were thrust open and I realized how the world really worked. Bottom line is a lot of the people who are speaking your mind on mainstream media are doing it to make you feel better so you won't become politically active. That is called a social counterbalance, and that is part of disarming people emotionally so that they will be not politically active. And that is one of the reasons why you'll see, I believe, why you will see these people talking about issues that we want to hear them talk about on mainstream media. It actually has the opposite effect. We feel like something is being done when actually nothing is being done except it being talked about, and then we become less active.
Yeah, the notion that someone out there is keeping an eye on the fort, that's a notion people have to get rid of completely. I mean, that's the purpose of all major federal agencies that are tasked with environmental issues, EPA, California Air Resources Board, water quality. Those organizations exist simply to hide dangers from the public. That's their primary purpose. And the sooner people realize that, the better. Nobody's watching the fort. It's up to each and every one of us to watch the fort, to engage in the fight for the common good every day. Don't fool yourself into thinking someone else is out there doing it. Thanks for that point, Rose.
Totally agree. Even the cancer organizations, go walk, go run, go swim. save your time and actually let's look at some real research we have from the past to help these people who are suffering. Now, caller with your number that ends in 98. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Fred. I'm in New York.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
My name is Fred. I'm calling from Rochester, New York.
I think I got that right. Thank you. Thanks for calling in.
I just got a quick question in regards to spraying. I was recently just traveling around in the Buffalo, New York area, and I noticed a lot of like X pattern spraying, actual X's in the sky. Is that pretty much conducive of like the heavy spraying in the Buffalo, New York area? Or?
No, we see that all over. It just depends on the day. And again, if you don't see any lingering long horizon or X pattern trails in the sky, you still can see a lot of spraying going on, but the shorter bright trails that dissipate. But on the X's, a lot of people have certainly pondered why these blatant, obvious symbols are put in the sky, and we can speculate on that, whether it's helpful for them to watch an air mass move on the radar or whatever other purpose there may be. We can speculate, but those are seen everywhere and frequently.
I mean, it's X patterns, it's like horseshoe ring patterns, and I mean, I know it's not commercial aircraft making those patterns. I mean, there's no reason they're going to fly a bunch of people around in an airplane around in circles like that. It's ridiculous to even think about. So I just want to thank you guys. I just want to thank you guys for everything you're doing. You guys are doing a great job out there.
The same to you, and we're with you on the same page completely, that it's ridiculous, and we have to discuss or dialogue about this kind of thing with our fellow man, with our family, our friends, our peers, as to whether or not this is going on. It's ridiculous that there could even be such a debate. It's ridiculous there could be such a debate about 9/11 buildings collapsing to the ground or countless other issues that society just chooses not to believe. But they're not going to have that choice much longer. Again, the chickens have come home to roost, if you will, and we're about to hit the wall hard, very, very hard. But if there's one thing we can do, again, as I stated before the show in the monologue, if we can beat the train to the intersection, if we can expose climate engineering before the power structure has all their chess pieces in play, we can yet change the flavor of what we face. It's the greatest leap in the right direction we can take to expose this issue.
Right. And
Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Fred. Good to have you on. People are afraid to act. I want to encourage you. A lot of people have said they're afraid to act because they're afraid they might become targeted. They might become singled out by the government. You're already targeted. You're already targeted. The stuff you're breathing is intended for you, and it's not worth it to not become active. It's very empowering to get out there and do something.
It is, and to live in that fear would be about like being worried about some sort of reprimand while you're being marched into the gas chamber if you raise your voice. I mean, that's about how foolish that is. So the ship is going down. We're all knee-deep on the deck of the Titanic right now. It's time to speak out now or you won't have a chance. We have to bring this issue to light now. Go ahead, Russ.
Absolutely. You are already targeted. Caller with your number that ends in 98. What's your name? Caller with your number. You just called in and you... we just got disconnected from that caller. Yeah, basically, Dane, we have a situation where a lot of times we have people online who are saying they are singled out or they've been something with the government. And we find out that a lot of these people are shills trying to scare people from being active. And I think that the most frightening thing that these people who spray this can possibly imagine is for the population to wake up because they know that we have the power. We have the power to change all of this if we will just work together.
Don't flinch. People need to reach a conclusion mentally, psychologically, where they don't flinch, where they don't duck back into the shadows. We need everybody out on deck now. There's absolutely nothing to be gained from hiding in the shadows at this point. Everybody's needed, and if we all pull together, we could yet do astounding things even at this late date. So I agree with you, Russ.
I would also, besides what I said earlier about mainstream media disarming people by speaking the mind of the people, by having these people on there who say what they want. I also wanted to share with you about what I call dark dust. I've built my own computers ever since I had a PC. I built my very first PC. I built every one I've ever had since then. My business uses all PCs that I build myself. And you have to clean them about every 6 months. You have to get in there and clean the dust out because the fans accumulate dust. After the spraying began, I started noticing what I call dark dust. Is instead of the dust being a very light colored, sandy, kind of typical dust we've all been used to that you can get a can of air and blow out, all of a sudden, after the chemical aerosols appeared, immediately after that, the dust took on a dark, sticky, oily appearance and is almost impossible to clean out. You can't just blow it all out anymore. You can blow a portion of it out, but a portion of it is sticky, sticks on the circuit board, sticks in the fans, actually will stain your carpets if you have airflow from your computer coming down underneath. I know a lot of people have experienced this. I do too. I've got pictures posted of it online, and it's a completely different type of substance in the air. Goes right along with the people who are experiencing oil on their windshields after heavy days of aerosols, this kind of thing. So,
yeah, God only knows what they're spraying at this point, but again, the factors that are coming together right now, and it's important to plug this into the equation. We have the strongest Kelvin wave ever recorded beginning to form again. This is the El Nino. And the climate engineers have tried, I believe the data supports this completely, and I posted about this, to suppress the total formation of El Nino, which will be a record-shattering heat year. And they bottle that heat up in the oceans. You can only keep the lid on the kettle so long, and now we're seeing the repercussions of that. Again, we're seeing massive marine ecosystem die-off, extreme heating in the oceans. This El Nino is forming, and it appears to be perhaps heading toward the strongest El Nino ever recorded. That will obliterate global temperature records. Let's plug that into the increased spraying we're seeing everywhere. What do the climate engineers do to try to continue this facade or this deception of the true conditions that are unfolding around us? They simply do more of what they've been doing. They ramp the programs up to ever higher levels. They use ever more powerful elements in their spraying that many seem to be detecting as well. So again, a lot of things converging right now. Global shipping crashing, the El Nino building, the Arctic ice situation, which I encourage people to examine. Not Antarctica, the Arctic, which the ice there is at record low levels right now. The mass is at record low levels right now. All these things converging that will make it almost impossible to hide climate engineering much longer. So bottom line is, don't lose heart. Keep marching. We're close to a breakthrough, and that doesn't mean our battle is over or our troubles have ended by any means. We face immense challenges at best. But if we can bring this issue to light, we will have taken a quantum leap in the right direction, Russ.
Absolutely. We have a caller with your number that ends in 03. What is your name?
Mike.
Hi, Mike. Good to have you. What's on your mind?
Well, I am a meteorologist, and I'm on your side, the good side. I don't really know what to do. I don't really do much, but I do watch the cloud cover increasing all the time. I just wanted to say that you are off the air for me here. And I'm just wondering, is it maybe just Canada, or maybe your whole UC-wide network is down?
It appears that we do have, I have a monitor here that shows me that we do have a lot of people connected to the stream right now, and on the chat room, people are still talking about what we're talking about. So I don't know if it must be a localized situation, perhaps. Maybe if you refreshed your browser, it would...
Oh, I've done everything, Russ. It's not coming through here. But again, I'm in Quebec, so a lot of things can happen between you and me.
Mike, I would be very, very interested in communicating with you. Again, if you can reach Russ or me at the emails there, I mean, I'll get back with you promptly and put a big heads up on the message so I know it's you if you have any interest in communicating privately. And I would be interested in communicating with you. We need people with your courage. And I know the meteorologist in Northern California for Channel 7 News, I was given a Facebook picture of his recent comment to activists that are constantly trying to force him to face this issue, and his last comment made it clear that he's absolutely aware of this issue and simply petrified of speaking out. And I know this is the case with others that we have communicated with as well, but I think we're close to having enough cover where people like yourself can truly come out into the open, and we're trying to get to that point, the critical mass that would provide the cover necessary for all those in academia that would be willing to speak out if they had enough cover.
I'm not afraid to speak out, but I will communicate with both of you.
I would be very grateful. I would be very interested in communicating with you. And I met a couple more meteorologists at Cal Jam in Southern California that are on board as well, that are willing now to just throw in. And so if you can try to reach me, please put a very clear heads up title so I know it's you and don't miss the message.
I'm not sure I can help you, but I'm sure you can do a lot of good for me. So, as you are doing. So I'll do that. Can I stay on hold or listen to the show through this?
Please, Mike, why don't you stay on with us, please? We'll be off here in just a minute, and we can continue then.
Yeah,
right.
Mike, we'll stay on a Skype after the show is over, so please stay on with us and chat with us. That would be great. And Dane, we only have a couple more minutes, but is there any final words you'd like to say?
Well, I don't know if we got anybody. I show a few more callers online right now. Maybe I'm not seeing that correctly, but you can grab another one if you can.
Yeah, we don't. There's nobody I can grab right now, unfortunately.
Okay. Bottom line is this, that as we stress at the end of every show, every single day matters. And there's still a lot of people I know who are aware of this issue that are spending a small fraction of their time in this fight. And that's not going to get us across the intersection before the train comes, as I mentioned earlier. Right now, with a very limited time till the military exercises start in the U.S., which carry very grave potential ramifications, people should be up in arms about this, but many unfortunately are not. We need to get out enough data. In fact, a person I met with last week, who's now a powerful ally in this fight, was completely unaware of the Jade Helm military exercises, which was surprising to me. So all of us need to have a coherent message to tie a few key basic points together of data, have credible information to pass on, refine your efforts, but make every single day count in this battle. We have to start prioritizing. If you're going on about your life as normal or only setting aside a small amount of time to engage in this battle, we need this battle to be prioritized, Russ, period.
Yes, we do. And I want to just assure everybody, as someone who is very sensitive to this has tremendous health repercussions. I hear from hundreds and hundreds of people who get migraines throughout the day. They suddenly come on and then they leave. They don't know what's causing them. They are having sleep issues. They're having skin rashes. These are all signs of toxicity. These can all be tied to different various types of toxicity. And in the tests that have been done for rainwater, we're showing all kinds of different metals that should not be there, molds, fungus, all kinds of other things that in quantities that should not even be close to the levels that they are. People need to be passionate. Talk to your family with passion. Don't accept people to just sit there and say, well, I'm really not interested. Someone who's not interested and does not take action is the problem.
They are. But again, plant a firm seed with confidence. I agree with that, Russ. But also don't keep beating your head against the same wall. If you have someone who absolutely refuses to wake up, move on to fertile soil and try to hit the groups that you're most likely to get the biggest results from. Again, Alzheimer's, autism, farm groups, environmental groups. Try to make your shots count to have the most result for what your efforts that you're putting out. But make absolutely every day count in the battle and pick your targets is what I'm trying to say.
In university environmental groups, I believe that the reason these people join these groups is because they really care. So let them know. That's a great place to go.
Exactly. Keep taking in data every day. Again, don't march forward with the same compass heading for months at a time. Constantly take in new data.
Absolutely. Nope.
This is Aussie Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.